Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 17 of my HO scale layout. I'm trying to do a lot of things at once, and so this update might be a little choppy because I kind of have to do it this way in order to test out what I'm going to do for the rest of the layout. So, that requires me kind of starting and stopping things randomly. But hopefully I'll keep track of everything and I won't miss any steps and screw something up. Right now I'm looking at my JMRI panel, which I'm trying to set up. It's definitely in its early stages here. I have a lot of tweaking to do, and I might even flip the orientation of some things just to make more sense in my head. Right now I have it set up where the top is the CSX line, double main. It's not done yet. I still have to add the double main there, but that's going to be the yard. And then as you can see, the CP crosses here at this point, but there is another crossing that I'm trying to figure out how to best place it. Then after that, what I have is in order of levels. I have the lowest level, which is your staging yard, and the CSX, as you can see, this comes out of staging, that's the main level here. CSX is crossing over there. And then I have what I consider kind of like the main level for CP, and that's all the climbing. So it would be, that endpoint would start here. That's why I kind of made it that way, so it would kind of look like it was continuing. I'm not sure if I like it though, but anyways, that's the gate here. This is my interchange between CSX and CP, and then it continues with one siding here, one siding here. This is all uphill, and then I have my yard on the second level. That's why this is kind of considered main/second level. And then once it gets up to the helix, that's where it takes me up to the third level, and the third level is just a return loop. So for now, I just did it that way. Now, what I might do is flip this so that the staging yard is at the bottom, this is in the middle, and this is at the top. That's a pretty easy fix. But I'm trying to figure out if I should go with direction, like railroad direction, meaning this is always north and this is always south, or east, west, no matter which way. Because right now it's not set up that way. Obviously, this is, I guess, north, and it would be going south. And then this is south, and it would be going north. I think I got that right. Anyways, I gotta play around with it so that I can have it make sense for me and for any guests that might be jumping in. But the good news is that I had a glitch in the system where it was picking up inside the staging yard and inside the helix. It was showing as occupied even when it wasn't. So I was able to fix that. As you can see, there's nothing up on the helix right now, so it's not showing as occupied. So that's good news. But there is stuff in the yard now, so that's showing up as occupied for that reason. And the staging yard, as you can see here, has grown a little bit. I have acquired some new locomotives, including that Scale Trains Givo. This I had, but I had not taken it out of the box yet. SD40-2. This is an Alco. I think it's a C630M. That's what the actual locomotive is called. And then I just took this GP38 out. Actually, that might not be a GP38. That might be an, I don't know what that is. I gotta look at the box. Oh wait, I have it right here. Oh yeah, it is. GB38-2. That's the only difference. I love that locomotive. It's an Athearn Genesis. It sounds great and runs great. And I think that's pretty much it. I did acquire this refrigerator car. It's an Athearn Genesis with sound in it. It's pretty cool. When you turn it on, you hear the compressor turning on and off. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, besides that, I haven't done too much. The only thing I decided to do is use this empty space here, since it's like a waste if I don't put any track on it, use it as a scene. So what I'm gonna do is this support here, I'm gonna move it back where I've braced right there. And I'm gonna brace every single space so that it's just in front of the 4 staging tracks, so that I can put a backdrop on there and use this as a scene, and this won't be here anymore. And at the same time, it'll be, if I make a support on every single one, it'll be plenty of support for the entire rectangle here of the bench work. I mean, I don't think it's gonna sag or anything, because when this is scenic, it's not gonna have a lot of weight on it, as it is right now with the computer on top. But and then obviously I'll hit the corner with one, and I'll hit this corner like it is right now. Or I'll probably move this over here, so just to get as much of the scene as possible. Now what I'm planning to do is basically just double track stub end, where so if the train's coming this way on track number 4, you have the option of uncoupling here and then backing into the 2 tracks, and I can use it either as a scene, which that's probably what I'm going to use it most of the time, or what I'm going to do is take this lower area here and turn it into large drawers that can slide out, and I can have all my rolling stock there, so that I can switch out and make up new trains that would be heading out from staging. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but that's the plan. But I just wanted to get that turnout in before I finish the track work here, so that's why I have it kind of placed there for now. But it should add to the fun. And as far as the scene, it's probably going to be like like a tank car facility or something like that. Maybe auto racks. I don't know, something where it's just like the same type of car, and I can put a little mini scene behind it so it looks like it's something. And obviously I'll put lights under there, and I might even put like a piece of plexiglass where you could just pop it off with magnets, just to kind of make it look a little neater. But the fascia will basically go from here, and then all this will be covered, and then go around out. So it'll be just like a window right here, and then the fascia will start again here, and this will be all covered, and it'll have the black, curtain type thing hanging from there. Another thing about the staging yard that I wanted to discuss was, I forgot. So we're gonna come back to that. Oh, I know what it was. I had this, this was my first HO scale layout. this one track that I had built just to run locomotives while I was in the process of planning the layout. So, I just wanted to go back and forth and listen to them. But what I did is I just created temporary staging track, and I put it under there. I propped it up on these aluminum stands, but it's cool because you can just pull it out, and I can just program my stuff here and then push it back in and it's out of the way. But at least I have the option of running it as a programming track or just layout, so that I can test them immediately instead of having to pick them up and put them on the layout to just see what they act like. So the other thing is that the staging yard had a lot of things that needed to be done, as far as just little maintenance things like feeder wires and things like that, and I'm still not done. I'm still putting feeders in, but once I get all that in, the only other thing I needed was the turnouts for this side of the yard, because on the right side, which is the inbound, meaning the receiving part of the staging yard, they're done. I have all 4 tracks ready to go. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all attached, with the exception of number 4, because like I said, I'm still working on that connection. But they're all attached, and they go all the way around up until this point. And now I gotta straighten those tracks out and attach them. But the thing was that I was waiting for these Pico turnouts, which I just received yesterday. So I'll hopefully get those installed today or soon, and then that will complete officially my staging yard, so that I can start building on top, because I'm kind of like avoiding putting stuff, bench work on top of here, so that I can reach in for the difficult stuff. And once it's already running and set up, then I don't have to be reaching in there for anything. I can go this way, but hopefully it won't be for anything major. So that's also some of the progress I've been making. Um, the biggest thing that I haven't spoken about in detail is the change in the plan. So a friend of mine, which I met on Facebook on one of the groups, on the HO Scale groups, Louis, he showed interest in my layout. He really liked what I was doing, and I liked what he was doing. So we were just going back and forth. And then as we started, learning about each other's layouts, he said, "Hey, man, I have some really good ideas for your layout, and I'd like to kind of like put my 5 cents in and see if you're into it." And I was like, "Yeah, bring it on," because after speaking to him for a little bit, I realized that he has a lot of knowledge about the area that I'm modeling, which is basically up in the Binghamton to Schenectady area. So that whole run there. And so what he recommended or suggested was making this a dual railroad, where there's two separate railroads running at the same time, but there's an interchange at some point where you can go back and forth. So just to make things a lot more interesting, and I thought that was a home run. I thought that was a great idea. The only thing is that because of that, we had to make some modifications to make it a little bit closer to the prototype. Because you're never gonna get everything in, especially after you change the plan in the middle of the build. But at least we got some things that'll make it more fun, and that's all I'm interested in doing. Is just having fun with this. But I was able to make a modification which did not wreck the entire. I didn't have to completely take it apart. It was pretty simple, and that was at the point where in real life, the point where CP crosses under CSX was kind of like one of the key spots that he found, and really insisted that I model, and I thought it was a great idea. So what I did is the staging yard, which is CP, the single main, it used to climb and then come on the outside of the bench hook here, and then it used to kind of wrap around the pole a little bit and kind of snake through and end up on this side where this track is right now, which used to be the CP. So what I ended up doing is, in order to create a smoother transition and also to create the scene where CSX crosses over, like in the real, prototype situation, was to cut the spline here before it climbed all the way, and then level it out for a little bit just to get under, and then start climbing again, which came out really smooth. And I had enough track, and I was able to cut into the bench hook here to get it up to the main level smoothly without any uncoupling or any jagged, transitions. So I was super happy with how that came out. And now what that did is it freed up the old track for it to become CSX, along with the double main that CSX usually runs. So the dedicated CSX double main is going to be on the outside two tracks, and CP now becomes the inside track, which is new. But that also transitions into CP a lot smoother because it goes right up that way. It used to go this way, and then I was going to have a transition where, well, it wasn't going to be a transition. It was supposed to be where it went all the way around the layout and it came back up again on this side after passing the yard. But that was just to make it feel like it was a longer run. But I'd rather sacrifice that and have another entire railroad in place so that it makes it more interesting. So what I did is I tried to figure out where I can have the junction, and basically this from here to like here is the only time where both railroads are kind of like right next to each other, because after that, once it starts climbing, they're nowhere near each other, and there's a lot of elevation change. So this was the spot, and I was trying to avoid the gate for turnouts and stuff. I was trying to keep this as simple as possible, but it was impossible for me to make it any other way because of the elevation and all that stuff. So what I did is I bit the bullet and I just went for it, and I actually ended up pulling it off pretty well. So here's my interchange. So CSX will have, you know, the I guess track number 2, whatever you want to call it, interchange with CP at this point, and then I'll have the crossovers more, you know, when CP is here with the double main, I'll have him like over here somewhere where then you can get to the other track if you need to switch over. And then speaking of the CSX line, what's going to happen is I had already put this cork down, you know, before I decided to change any of this stuff over. So I like the way I did this. I'm really happy with the way the curvature came out and everything, but I planned it for single track. So now in order to make a double track, it's almost impossible to stick a double, you know, like 2 pieces of cork next to this thing, because either you're in here where it doesn't fit, or you're out here where it doesn't fit on this side, or it's all falling off, or, you know, when I get to this curve, it's going to be too tight, and then I don't have any room here. So here's my solution to that, and I think it's going to work just fine. My solution is, if I can find a piece of cork, here we go, is to have the cork bed split between this cork bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half the cork bed and put it on one side. Sorry, let's say we're here. Put it on one side like this, and then flip the other side, or no, not flip it, but just open it up to this side. So now this becomes one track, and this becomes one track. This way I'm not, you're still gonna have the beveled edge here, you know, for the ballast. It's still gonna look normal. And then the stuff in the middle, you won't even see it because it'll be covered with ballast. So that works for every situation because it fits here and here. And then at the same time, when I get to these spots here, it's the same situation. That'll be much more manageable than having to stick a whole nother track here or a whole nother track there. So you can see I tried to do it, and it works in some spots, but then not in others, and you know, that's the situation. So that's that. And by the way, I forgot to mention that when I decided to do the CSX transition here, Louis actually brought this up. He said, why don't you just take this whole section and drop it, so you can have the room to do that with, you know, I could do the spline and everything, and not have to transition into wood or something like that. And that worked out actually perfect because I had built this box to begin with that long and in that place. So I just literally just took it off the wall and just, it all came down together. It was already built. So there was no major construction there. And then it just braced it a little lower. I just took the brace, which was already attached to it, and I just, you know, put it into the wall a little lower. So that worked out great. And then the decline, I started, let's see if I can get this wire here. I started here by cutting the plywood, you know, on both ends, and that naturally pulls it up without getting, like, again, another jagged, like, transition point. And you know, as you can see, it keeps climbing. I added this plywood just by bracing it with another one. So the brace goes from there to about here. So it's a nice wide surface holding the whole thing. This way this doesn't kink and start creating weird things there too. So that's all new stuff. Moving on. The gate I did a lot of work on because I had already decided to you know, start the whole interchange here. So, you know, I'm still kind of gluing tracks down, and I'm waiting for cork. I ran out of cork and they ran out of track, and microengineering is like apparently backed up big time. So I don't know when I'm going to get my next batch of, I pre-ordered some flex track, but I don't know when I'm going to get that. So in the meantime, I could figure out the roadbed and all that stuff. But going back to what I was saying about the gate, there's a bunch of things that I did here. So the one thing that I had trouble with was getting the power over to this gate because it's completely separated. And the way the wiring worked, it actually was more beneficial for me to go from here to there than from there to here. Because there's a reversing loop there, and then the run on the other side, starting from the panel, which is down here, is much longer well, not much longer, but it's more uncomfortable to get the wires in through here. So what I ended up doing is creating contact points for all the wires that are coming this way that need to make it over to the gate. So you have power, you have, so it's a bus with just regular power. You have 1, 2, 3 detection zones that need to make it over to here, because this is going to be a separate detection zone. And then you have, this is going to be 1 detection zone, and then that's the new one over there. And then you have 2 commons that you need, one for here and one for here, because this one's going to be one BDL 168, which I have in a separate zone, and this is going to be a different BDL, which I have obviously in another separate zone. So what I came up with was this kind of like my own thing to make that happen. So when I open the gate, what you're going to see is that, there's not much to look at here, but if you look closely, I've created these contact points here by using just, like a thin piece of brass like this that I took and I bent over the shape of this elbow. These are just standard L brackets. And then I put them, I braced them by putting the screw in here that holds that in place. And then this, it sticks out and it's almost like spring loaded. So from there, what I did is I hooked up the wires to the L brackets. So it's, this is, for example, my power here. And this is one of the detection zones. And then obviously those wires went over to the 12 gauge wires that were there in place originally. I didn't want to solder the 12 gauge wires directly to this because it was too much tension on the wire. They're just really thick wires. So I braced them here, I anchored them, and then from there I bridged them over with thinner wire that's more flexible. And now, so this is, I just ran this here. This is for my CSX line. Here's my common, my bus. And then here's the one zone, and here's the second. So 1 track and the second track. So this is my double main here. This is what's going to detect the train, and then both B rails go to here. This is my CP right here, and like I said, this is my power. So all I got to do now is just bridge this when I put the the rest of the, sorry about the shakiness here. When I put the rest of the L brackets here, I'll just bridge them and solder them in, and it'll be more connecting spots. Now, the way I get the power from here to the gate is through basically these flat, they're just brackets, flat brass brackets. And I did the same thing. I soldered the wires and bridged them over to the 12 gauge wires. And then what happens is when you close the gate, they all make contact right there. And the angle that I cut here for the bench work originally, I was not planning for that, but it worked out perfectly where they're not like getting caught up on the sides or anything like that. They worked perfectly well. And obviously you can adjust these, you just bend them out. So that actually, I came up with just because I had no choice. I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't want to have a plug where every time my wife needs to get to the laundry room, she has to go reaching down and unplugging it and all that stuff. It's just so much easier. What I am going to do though is just to be more reliable. When I'm running trains by myself, I don't need it to be like perfectly reliable. It's just me. So if something doesn't make contact here, fine. I'll just adjust it and it'll work. But if I'm having a session, I don't want to have to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to jump a plug from these wires down just to hang it here, and same thing here. So I can also have a hard connection if I wanted to, so it'll just be an optional thing. So most of the time I'm probably not going to use it until I have a session, then I could do it as a hardwired situation rather than having those contact points. The other thing I did besides hooking up all the frog juicers and tortoises and all that stuff, and by the way, I know, I get it, it's overkill. I can power up the frogs with the tortoises. I know that. But I had all these frog juicers for my last layout because in N scale you can have 1,000 turnouts and only squeeze it into a small amount of space. So I already had them. So I'm just using them because I just like the way they work, and they're very reliable. So I figured I'd just do it anyway. But anyways, going back, so all my tortoises are hooked up, and what I did to wire them, again because of the gate situation, is I just took a Cat 6 wire within its sheath, and that has 4 sets of wires, so it's 8 wires altogether, and I just took 2 wires for each motor. So it's basically 1 motor's here, so it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so it was so easy because all I did then was I hooked up the Cat 6 wire to one of these Cat 6 plugs, like receivers, females, and then I did a mounting plate. You see how it's on the other side right there? And then I just took a regular like Cat 6 wire and just clicked it in and clicked it in. And when you open the gate, again, you have perfect situation where the slack is enough to not get in the way, even if you open the gate all the way. So all you got to do is, if you want to disconnect it, it's just basically unplug it here, and that's it. So it's all set, and it's all aligned. So you don't have to be dealing with a bunch of little wires twisted together and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to use that technique for several things later on with lighting, and anything that's like very small wires, maybe even signaling, because it's so much easier to just connect them that way. So sorry, I'm spending a lot of time on this gate, but there's a lot of work done here. The other thing I did on the gate, so I had a little bit of an alignment problem here because I was an idiot, and when I built this entire gate, I forgot to put the piece of wood under the benchwork here that holds this part of the gate up. So in other words, when you close the gate, that's what keeps it in level. I didn't have that there. I only put that one on that side because I'm an idiot. So when I built this, which is attached to the main gate, I built it to that level. But then when I actually put the plate in, I was like, oh, I'm done. And I put the plate in, everything was fine here, but it pushed everything up here because I had already calculated for that height. So because that happened, then I had to lift this plywood a little bit, as you can see. And the way I did that is just by bracing it from the inside and lifting it so that it's to a track height here. But by doing that, then when you put this here, then it creates a gap here. It was like a domino effect. Everything was just creating problems. So what I noticed is that when I was trying to align this, as you can see, it's out of alignment here. All I had to do was basically push on the benchwork up here, and it would go right into place. So what I did is I created, just by soldering some of these, I don't know what you call them, but they're like threaded things that you could push into wood. Put a metal plate here, just so I can push the screws into it, and then just the L bracket is the mounting system. So by doing this, I can fine tune my adjustments. So let me just show you how that works. And I have 2 screws because I wanted to make sure that it came out evenly. So watch as I screw in, watch how that goes into alignment. There it is. That's all it takes. It takes 2 little turns and I'm good. And then, the other one on the bottom is just for reinforcement. There you go. So, I've tested it a bunch of times. It works great, and that's all it is. I'm just basically making contact here, and it's pushing the bridge slightly. It's just a little bit. And then this plate is just holding it from, it's holding it from just going too high. And then as the cars come, it'll, it saves them from jumping over here. So it keeps the track level down. I'm gonna put one more here too, just to make sure that it's all good on both ends. The only thing is though that when I'm not using it, I have to back it out a little bit so that it doesn't get caught up. as you swing the gate open, so it's wife proof. There you go. Okay, so all right, that was a lot. This video is probably going to be a little longer than most. Third level. Okay, third level is coming along, but I ran out of everything. I ran out of wood, I ran out of cork, I ran out of track, I ran out of patience. So we're leaving that alone for now, but I was able to mount some kind of swing gate here along with the bridge. So this does open up just like these, but it's independent from the other ones. And then obviously I have the connection point here. And then I did all of this, which I think I've shown 1,000 times already on my last videos. But the cool thing is that even though it's a gate that I don't want to open up a lot, and I do have the option of opening it, the good thing is that, again, bring my wife into context here. When she saw this, she's like, oh no, another gate that I have to open. And I'm like, no, hold on. This one opens up with that one. So when you open up the main gate, that's coming along also. And then I said, do me a favor, just stand under here. And she just cleared it. Her head is like here. So I'm glad that she's that tall or short, whichever way you want to see it, because we both agreed that it's not a big deal. She can get in and out, and I don't have to open this gate ever, basically, unless we're getting like some kind of like, you know, a new machine in there or something. But I still have the option. Now, the reason why I asked her for that favor is because I don't want to have to over brace this to make it work well. You know, this is a long run, so when you open it, even though this is a heavy duty bracket, it still has a tendency to dip. And I tried, you know, bracing with an L here, but it's not enough. You know, I would have to put another piece of wood like on an angle here or something, and then it gets in the way of the seam, and you know, that's obviously priority. So that's great news. She's just gonna let me leave it like that, and then she'll just use this as a gate, just to get in and out of the laundry room. So that's also huge progress. But I want to try to get this done as soon as possible, because this is the only way I can get the train back down, because it's a giant return loop. But basically, after you exit the helix, it goes left. There's a turnout there. It goes left, which then wraps around the entire perimeter. It's going to be at about that height, across the window, and then to that cleat right there, here. And then here it starts to go downgrade. Now, the reason I wanted to go this way is because this grade is pretty steep. So I'm going to kind of mask this so it doesn't look so ridiculous. But it might even be an optical illusion, because it's really just a 2.5%. I don't even think it gets to 0.5. It might be like 2.3. And then it kind of levels out a little bit to there. And that's where it hooks up. It goes through the wall and hooks up back into the track that goes down the helix. So yeah, I want to get it down, because I want to get it done, because what I've been doing is running the trains up to there, and then I got to back up the entire huge train, you know, and that's getting a little old at this point. So that's that. The other thing I'm trying to start to do, I'm trying to just kind of mock things up to see how they're going to look as far as like scenery. So, you know, I made these braces for the fascia, which is nice and sturdy. You know, it's not going anywhere. It's not putting any extra force on the roadway, because it's you know, the legs are built really stiff and really strong. What I might do is just put a small piece of wood from there down to the leg, just to avoid, you know, any kind of potential slouching. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere, to be honest. And what I did is I placed the fascia here with this size, because I'm going to try to keep the seam at track level or below, because that's what I want it to be like. It's riding on the edge of the mountain, and then the mountain kind of continues. So there'll be up and down here, but it's not going to be where it goes up. I don't want that. I don't want it to go through like a rock cut or anything like that, until it gets to the tunnel, and that's when it'll come up again here. But I'll just put like trees and stuff there. And I also made it this deep because I want to be able to put you know, the black kind of like curtain type thing here so that if I need to get to staging, I can just open the curtain and be there. I didn't want the fascia to go too low because then it's very uncomfortable to get under there, and I didn't want to have to crawl into the control, where the panel is every time something goes wrong. I want to have access there. So, and also I have wiring and stuff that I don't want to have to do that with. Now this panel is going to be larger. It's going to be like deeper because it needs to transition. So it's going to go like this, and then it's going to kind of tie into here. So, I got to figure out how I'm going to shape that to make it look smoother. But I'll figure something out. And then what I am going to do is the fascia is going to stop kind of like here. Not stop, but it's going to be where the bottom part is going to be a separate panel. And I'm going to put like one of those piano hinges here where I can just lift it if I need to get access to staging here, because there's no other way to get there from the other side. It's way too far. So I want to have like a door, an access hatch there. And I don't want to leave it open. I'd rather have staging completely, invisible. And then over here, I'll start so the hatch will probably stop around here. And then here I'll start the bend again for the rest of the fascia, which will continue. So I think that's pretty much all I've done. The only other thing that I had a little trouble with was the panel, which I'm, working on now. Let me just take it to the other side here. So the panel's almost complete. I just have a few things that I have to tweak, add, etc. But the problem that I had was with this BDL 168, and I think I mentioned it before. What was happening was, that I think I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it was detecting things when they weren't really there. Well, I think I figured out why. The reason why that was happening was because I was gluing the track while I was trying to set that up at the same time. And let me show you what I mean. When I cut, this is just my own technique, but when I cut gaps into tracks, what I do is I use this very, very strong wood glue. Actually, I use this for everything, but when this dries, it dries really hard. It almost creates like like a hard, I don't know what you call this, but it's like almost like a plasticky kind of feel. I mean, that's like really hard. So what I do is I pour it between the tracks so that it almost wraps the ties. But what happens is when the glue dries, it actually pulls down. So you can still get ballast in there if you want. And I tend to go a little thicker where there's not going to be ballast because I just want it to really grip. But this is not going anywhere. I'm really pushing on these rails. So when I cut the gap, what I do is I cut them over that section with the glue. This way I don't have any potential play. If there's any temperature changes or whatever, these things might move. These things are not, it's almost like, it's like resin. That's the word I was looking for. So I can cut the gaps here, and the reason why I want to cut gaps here is because I want to split the staging yard in half so that I have one detection zone for this half and one detection zone for that half. This way I can stack two trains in one track, which doubles my staging basically. So I'm going to have a signal here and cameras and stuff so I can see it while it's covered. And then all my monitors and all my JMRI and everything is going to be on a big 55-inch TV here. And I'm going to split the screen so that you can see all the, the JMRI that I already have set up, and then the cameras on the other side and all that stuff. So you can do that on a computer and then just basically put it up on the TV through HDMI. So yeah, that's basically all I've got right now. I'm sure, as always, I probably missed something. But as you can see, it's just a lot of things going on at one time, and I'm getting through them, but I want to make sure things work before I actually continue. And so far, so good. I fixed the bug that I had here with the auto reverser. What ended up happening is, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, or if I put it on Facebook or something, but what ended up happening was that every time the auto reverser would engage and then the frog juicer would engage for this turnout, they were kind of like battling each other for who's gonna flip the polarity faster. So apparently the polarity was too slow. The switch was too slow with the Digitrack. So there's a little dial right down here that says trip speed. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Yeah, the one on the left, right there, it says trip speed. I just basically took it at like a tiny bit, and I sped it up a little bit, and that fixed everything. Now it's like butter. It's like the locomotives don't even see the reversing loop. So that's that. All right, guys, that's the end of 17, and I will see you on number 18.